Yvonne, I think it's really important to note that in that report we were saying that had lost 500,000 shillings each. It's not that collectively they had lost 500,000 shillings. It's around each. I think I'd like to touch a little bit on some of the things that people had been saying earlier before I talk about the event. I think the important thing is context as regards the 100 million shillings that the government were able to inject into the creative sector. We need to realize that there's a difference between crisis response and an ongoing long-term response and strategy that is informed by data. I think it's important to think about these things as both and as opposed to either or. When we ask whether the 100 million shillings is enough, even in the crisis, of course, it was not. And when viewed in the context of a long-term response, it is even half a drop in the ocean, but it is a beginning, and that all beginnings should be recognized for what they are. I think another important thing to say is that when people say that artists are not, and this is a difficult thing for artists to hear, that the only reason that artists are not moving forward is that they're not they're not united, they're not forming sector associations. I think it's important to note that all sector associations take years and years and years to found, because if people are coming together, if people are doing it from a place of honesty, building consensus in the context of a democracy is going to be a very, very difficult thing to do. I can give you the example of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, which was an entity that took almost a decade to form. And so to tell artists that the reason that you're moving forward is that you're not necessarily forming associations also ignores all of the existing associations that have existed for quite a long time and that they exist across subsectors. There's associations in film. The Actors Guild have been there for a very long time. The Screenwriters Guild. There's visual artists associations. There are even associations of Kenyan gamers. There are associations of Kenyan people who are in cosplay, which means that they're interested in characters and stories and in being able to represent these characters in real life. So there's multiple small associations. It is these associations that need to get stronger. Back to the report, Yvonne, if I may reference some of our statistics, we were able to get responses from over 500 creators from 21 counties across the country. The top 5 sectors that we found were the combination of film, TV, radio, and photography as one sector, music, performing, and visual arts as another sector, product, graphic, and fashion design as another sector, advertising and marketing at a full 8.6%. And the final sector that was really, really important was sector association and training. We had, of course, also fashion production, crafts, sector supplies, cultural heritage, animation, and VFX, publishing, museums, and galleries. Other interesting figures from the sector were that 39% of surveyed practitioners were registered with a sector representation body. These are the associations that we were discussing earlier, but 61% were not. And so the question that we should be asking is how we can get this 61% into a representation body, and how these representation bodies can be made even stronger than they are not.
Absolutely.
20% of sector practitioners are registered with a government entity, which is even more interesting. And some of the government entities include the Department of Culture that is homed in the Line Ministry, which is the Ministry of Sports and Heritage, and of course other ministries, which include the ministry where gender is represented. Some people are registered under the Ministry of Industries and things like that.
I see.
Most of the people who responded to our samahani. Most of the people who responded to our survey have been in operation for more than 5 years, and 16% had been in operation for less than 3 years, which implies quite a significant concentration of seed and early stage businesses. Over half. Yes,
so
and over half of the...
Yeah, sorry, Njoki, I just want to move it, because you've talked very much about the context, and it's important to put that in perspective, which we appreciate. So you've come up with this report. You understand just who the creatives are in this country, whether they're part of associations or not. But then a lot of artists are saying, so where does the help come from? And HIVA, has launched a fund for creatives. Could you tell us a little bit about that and the specific value chains that you're targeting with the funding?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that's important to realize is, where will help come from? Help has to come from everywhere. It's not going to come from one group of people. It has to come from a whole bunch of different people, and it has to come over a period of time. There has been help. It's just not necessarily been enough, and it's not necessarily been able to reach a critical mass of artists, and multiple people who are stakeholders in the sector have been discussing these matters for a very, very long time. So I think help definitely is present. It just needs to be more. I think for us, I can talk about the fund that we've rolled out most recently, even though Hiva Fund has been in operation since 2013. That's 7 years of operation and experience of the creative sector in this country. For us, we rolled out the East Africa Creative Business Fund just about last week. It is our latest fund, and we're really, really excited about it because it is the first of our funds that is allowing us to operate outside of Kenya's borders. So we are able to give facilitation to Kenyan artists, of course, but we're also inviting applications from Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. We are offering $20,000 to $50,000 for creative businesses in these countries. The value chains that we're working in as at now include crafts and handmade items, events, which include digital and virtual renditions of events and cultural events, as well as event supplies. We're also interested in creative and cultural education, which is relevant programming in sector-aligned schools and colleges, development of relevant educational and online and mobile applications courses and things like that. We are have always been interested in fashion, and in fact, fashion is one of the value chains that we have a strategic plan for going into 2022-2023. We are also really interested in upgrading cultural infrastructure and equipping production capacities. We're interested in the value chains of film, TV, and photography, especially in co-financing commissioned work. Yeah. We're interested in food and cuisine. Interestingly, it's one of our newest spaces. We're really excited about that, especially cultural food offerings, culture-centric food cooking classes, courses, food vlogging, indigenous food preparation. Those are really interesting. Yes, those are really interesting conversation online about people who are interested in, for instance, learning how to cook some of these indigenous greens, the ones that have long processes that have to be cooked in specific ways so that you can get all of that. So we're interested in cultural tourism. Let me just finish because there are two more. There's decorative home, and then there's, of course, digital media, which includes gaming and esports, which is another of the sectors that we're supremely interested in, publishing of ebooks, digital magazines, all sorts of interesting things. All of this information is available on our website, which is hivafund.com.
Yeah, thank you. And it's really interesting to see, just the sort of fields. And that's what's important, is that the creative sector is so varied and so wide, and important for our viewers to understand the value chains that you are willing to invest in. Thank you, Njoki Ngumi, for speaking with us and for investing in the creative sector and for giving us context and perspective on where the creative economy is at. Njoki Ngumi from Hiva Fund, thank you for your time this afternoon. So there you have it, 20 to 50,000.